Hey guys and girls, I'm James and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about before you go fly your drone for the first time. And I'm really excited to bring this information to you because I sure wish I had it before I flew my drone for the first time, which was about 5 years ago. I got this drone here and I flew it into my neighbor's Suburban the first time and I thought, you stupid drone. Then the second time I flew a drone with this Holystone 700, and the second time I climbed the tree to get it out, I thought, you stupid drone. So I thought drones weren't for me, but a couple years later my son came over with some really cool DJI drones and flew them off the deck of my house, and I thought, man, I've got to have these. I'm a roofer and I want these to do inspections. I'm going to learn what it takes to get this done. So let's go over these 10 common sense things that you need to know before you fly your drone the first time. So number one, we're going to spend the most time on, and the rest of them will go pretty quick, I promise. But number one's the big one. It's the big O, the big orientation. And what do I mean by that? You need to learn what the orientation of your drone is doing. So your drone sits on 4 different axes. And what I mean by that, it's got 8 different directions it goes. It goes forwards, backwards, it rolls left and right, goes up and down, and it yaws left and right. So when you put all those actions together, you need to know the orientation of it. So when you're holding this and you're holding these sticks, you feel comfortable with it. And you might say, James, that seems really confusing. But the first time you drove a car, especially if you learned on a standard, your dad took you to this big parking lot and you had to think about the clutch, the gas, the brake pedal, the shifter, which way to turn, all the different aspects of driving a car was all in your head at once, and it seemed very confusing. But now when you drive to work, do you stop back and think of all the things that you did to drive that car? No, it came second nature. You were still very aware of what you were doing, just like when you learn to fly a drone, you'll still be very aware of the actions of the drone, but you don't have to think about what you're doing for the orientation. Your brain will take over and you'll just start flying. And that won't take long before you do it, as long as you do a couple things. But first of all, let me ask you a question. So let me ask you a question. If you're going to learn how to ride a bicycle, do you go get a professional triathlon bike? Or if you're going to learn how to ride a motorcycle, do you go get a high-performance road racing machine? Of course you wouldn't buy that motorcycle or that bicycle for your first time. What you need is a drone with training wheels, and I've got a drone with training wheels. It's this, the HS210 by Holystone. They're about this much on Amazon right now. And the controllers on this work just like the controllers on a big drone. So if you learn the orientation of the drone on this one, you'll feel much more comfortable when you fly your big drone out in the air, and you won't have to think about the orientation of it. Number 2 is very simple. Know your drone. Know that when you put the battery in, you need to hear this snap and make sure it's locked in so it doesn't fall out. Know that your blades go in different directions and spin when you lock them in. Know that if it has obstacle avoidance in all different directions, kind of like the Spark only has it in the front. Know how long it takes to charge the battery, how long the batteries are going to last, how many batteries you have. All very simple, but know your drone. Number 3 is know your controller. Of course you're going to know what the controllers do, but what about all these buttons? What do they mean? Be sure and look at your manual and understand there's 2 dials back here, there's 2 buttons in the back, these buttons in the front. If you don't know what this button does, and you mean to return to home when you hit this button, that kills the blades. Do you know, and it'll fall out of the sky. Do you know that if you pull these controllers in and down, the blades will stop? So if you're flying over the lake, it's just going to fall in the water. So if you don't know your controller or your drone, you're going to come home with something like this, and you'll be very frustrated because you'll think these dumb drones don't know how to fly. But if you learn your orientation, learn your drone, learn how to fly it before you go, you'll have a lot more fun. Number 4 is know your app. If you have your phone connected to your controller or you have a smart controller, know the different settings on the app. Be sure and start in beginner mode or tripod mode. Tripod mode is here on the side, and then other apps have it inside the app, and they'll call it beginner mode. That's where you want to start. When you take off, it's going to hover very slowly right, left, no matter how much you push on the joysticks. Another thing on your phone is be sure and turn it in airplane mode. You don't want your boyfriend or your mom or someone calling you and texting you while you're trying to fly. Also in your app, there's a setting for braking. Did you know that? What I mean by that is when you let off the sticks, it's going to brake. In other words, it's going to stop. For cinematic filming, you want it to brake very slightly so the gimbal can catch up. But when you're a beginner and you let go of those sticks, you want it to brake really fast. So you want to turn your braking all the way up. That way it stops immediately when you let go of the controllers. Number 5 is stay focused. Do you know that professional drone pilots, when they're out at a job site and they're doing an inspection on a building, they're typically wearing a vest that says drone pilot, do not talk to me. In other words, leave me alone, go away. That's the way that you need to be focused on when you're flying your drone. That's why you want to put your phone in airplane mode so you can stay focused. Make sure there's no barking dogs and other things that could take you away from the responsibility that you have of flying your drone. Don't talk to your friends. I know it's a lot of fun, but the first couple times, until you learn how to drive that car like your dad taught you, or until you learn how to use these controllers, then you need to stay focused on what you're doing. Don't be nervous, just stay focused. Another thing that'll keep you focused is don't worry about your camera. Don't even put an SD card in, don't record, don't take photos, because that adds these 2 dials in the back, and it could add 6 more things that you're trying to control when you've already got 8 to control right now with your joysticks. So stay focused on the joysticks. Don't worry about your camera the first time you fly. Number 6 is know your airspace. And what I mean by that, of course you want to know your airspace around you. Hopefully you start in a big open field, just like you started in a big empty parking lot when you learned how to drive a car. You want to start with somewhere where there's no distractions around you, and you know your airspace, you're comfortable with it, there's no trees. And also you need to know your airspace with the FAA. And what I mean by that, there's all kinds of regulations in flying drones. You can't go near an airport, national parks, there's temporary flight restrictions that you don't know about. And how you find about those is not just on websites, but through the apps. They're very easy to use. Go forward to fly. It'll tell you the weather, if there's a storm coming. It'll tell you the regulations of the height restrictions. It's always 400 feet, and it's always line of sight. You can never fly your drone past what you can see. I see guys posting all the time on the internet that they fly them 2-3 miles out. They can't see those drones. They're breaking the FAA regulations. And if I get caught doing something like that, then I lose my 107 certificate that was issued to me by the FAA. And number 7 is don't panic. If you get into a situation that you're uncomfortable with, just let go of the joysticks, and these GPS drones will just stop and hover, and it'll stay in one spot, and then you can readjust. Or if it's got up in the air and you're kind of confused about what it's doing, just hit return to home and make sure you've got your return home setting to the correct height. Make sure there's no trees around you that are higher than what you've got your settings set to come back down. So main thing is don't panic. Number 8 is learn both ways to steer. And what I mean by that is in the very beginning, have the drone just going away from you. And learn how to roll it right and left and come back to you in this direction. This may seem confusing at first, but once you get out there, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And you can do all of that just with one joystick once you have your level set. So just have it away from you, roll right and left, have it come back and forth to you, then start yawing it. And what I mean by yawing it is having it turn back around and coming back at you. But in the very beginning, you want to learn how to fly just with your right joystick, having it roll right and left and coming back and forth before you start learning how to yaw it and turn it. Another thing is don't ever use headless mode. Headless mode, what it does is it takes away the direction of the drone. In other words, if it's kind of pointed in this direction and you want it to go forward, it will still do that. But all that's going to do is teach you bad habits. Your whole point of this whole exercise is to learn to fly the drone and to be a really good and safe drone pilot. And number 9 is trust your drone. I mean, it's not a barking dog that wants to attack you. It's a drone that's very intelligent, and it wants to do what you want it to do, and it's going to fly very good. And you're going to be a lot more comfortable with it when you follow these steps. So trust your drone. And number 10, have fun with drones. Drones allow you to see things that other people can't. And when I was a child, I used to always dream that I could fly like a bird, and now I kind of feel like one when I get to fly my drone and look at the screen. I see what a bird sees. And they can do some amazing things. This dual enterprise has thermal imaging, which is great for roof inspections, but this could also find a lost child in the woods. And since these Pros have came out, you can get a great deal on these Phantom 4s. And these things shoot incredible. Since the Minis came out, you can pick up the Sparks really cheap. And since the Inspire 2 came out, you can get a great deal on an Inspire 1. And I'm going to be reviewing all these drones and different aspects of drones and the props and the speed. So this is a new channel for 2021, and if you learned something from this video and you want to learn some more, please like and subscribe. I've got a lot of really good content coming out with all kinds of tests and different aspects of drones and video production, and I'll see you in the next one.